Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Asha Victoria Robinson.
And welcome to Blackest Night Club. This is where we're diving into the important issues into the DC Comics mega event known as Blackest Night. If you haven't watched any of the other episodes of Blackest Night, man, you're gonna be lost.
Yeah.
This is the series where we give you lots of Easter eggs, talk about live action stuff, how much Ashley loves Black Lanterns, they're her favorite.
No, don't slander, lies and slander.
If you have...
Ashley loves Glomulus.
Ashley loves... Yes, you actually love Glomulus. We have the
do.
action figure right here. Zoom in on that. Zoom in.
Zoom, enhance.
Zoom
enhance. Welcome to NCIS.
Yes, welcome. This is where we're going to be talking about Blackest Night, going all kinds of stuff, guys. We have an official reading order. It's popping up on screen right now. Of course, you can always find our official reading order over at patreon.com/Jawiin, because when this airs, every time one of these comes up, Ashley's going to reshare the reading order with you so you know what's going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
No one told me that.
We're doing it now, because otherwise how are they going to know to follow along? But anyway, especially if they're listening to the audio version of this later. So basically, today's video will cover Green Lantern 51, Blackest Night 7, Green Lantern number 52, and Blackest Night number 8. It's a big one, so we're going to hop right into it. Green Lantern Volume 4, number 51, with a cover date of April 2010. It was written by Jeff Johns, penciled by Doug Monkey, inked by Doug Monkey, colored by Randy Mayer, lettered by Rob Lee, and edited by Eddie Berganza and others. This is called Parallax Rebirth Part 2.
Part 2.
Yes, because Parallax Rebirth started in Green Lantern 50.
Part 2.
Wasn't the last one.
Sweet baby Glomulus on page 2 and 3.
Yes, he's an Orange Lantern again.
I love him so much.
Yes, because
he's so weird.
Glomulus is just a construct. Lex Luthor is about owning things, and Lara Flees finds this intriguing, that planet Earth is all about owning things.
Then perhaps this planet is worth saving after all. This sequence is so good.
Mm-hmm.
This sequence is so good. There's also a great, I meant to mention it, but there's a great Orange Lantern moment as well in the Adam Hawkman storyline where he says, I want my friends back.
Oh, interesting.
Because that comes from wanting to possess something. But everything with Lex from here on out is actually pretty genius.
Yes.
He was a great pull to be like, God, we need an Orange Lantern. Who is it gonna be?
We also got to talk about Doug Monkey's art is so astounding, especially in the 2-page spread of Parallax fighting the Spectre.
It's scary. There are too many teeth on display.
What are your thoughts about this issue? Because I kind of want to jump, there's only a couple things I really want to talk about in this issue, and I basically want to jump right to the Spectre of it all. So before we get to that.
I think that's hard not to do, so why don't we go talk about this? Oh, we're gonna dig this ring out.
Yes, so there's a lot of
creepy.
cosmic mumbo jumbo in this thing, because the Spectre is a cosmo mumbo jumbo character.
So are the Green Lanterns.
Well, that's true. But the Spectre even more so, especially being a concept of the Judeo-Christian God.
Yes.
So the reason that they explain how the Black Ring took over the Spectre is because the Spectre actually has a host at this time, which was a human, who is Crispus Allen. Ashley, do you know who Crispus Allen is?
He's a detective.
Yes, he is Renee Montoya's partner.
Sometimes.
From all of the time he ever existed in the GCPD Gotham Central series created by Greg Rucka.
Amazing series.
And then there's an interesting beat in this where I think that Atrocitus has no idea what the Spectre is, and when he sees the Spectre, again, this is the spirit of vengeance, he sees this creature as a concept of rage and wants to put a red lantern ring on him, which I think is a very clever twist.
I also like that he fully has no idea who Mara is, but he's like, welcome, we are happy to have you, Mara.
Yes, yes. Now, of course, we get the Spectre is red lantern ringed, of course. That only happens for a brief moment, but then eventually we get Sinestro and some other people to pull Parallax out of Hal Jordan.
In a truly horrific panel.
Yes.
Very scary.
And then Parallax vanishes. And we don't know where he is sent off to. Not technically, we don't know where he's sent off to.
Well, if you know what Hector Hammond
We don't
means.
technically know where he's pulled away to yet, because that happens in the future and outside of the Starlight.
I know, but there's a little, there's a heavy hint.
That is not technically where Parallax is pulled away to.
You're right.
I'm just saying.
But that's where there's a
As
heavy
a person that has read this, that is not where Parallax is sent to.
All right.
I'm just saying. So, we get to this moment, right, where the Spectre is finally free. And this is a fully powered, fully ready Spectre. Now, Ashley, based on Crisis Club, which was our last event, this should be a big deal. Because who did the Spectre face down with and almost beat in Crisis on Infinite Earths?
The Anti-Monitor.
Yes, and Anti-Monitor is possibly the most powerful thing ever. He's the Galactus of the DC Universe.
Yeah.
But if we remember right, Necron, our big villain, trapped the Anti-Monitor.
Yes.
So the Spectre ain't nothing to Necron. I almost said Nectar. But here's the interesting thing about this. I love that because the Spectre has no soul, because he's not technically a living being, Necron's like, be gone. Mm-hmm. You matter nothing to me.
It's a really smart move to sort of hand wave this character's power away because hardcore nerds who are reading this, who are familiar with Crisis on Infinite Earths, or pretty much anything that the Spectre's ever done, are kind of expecting him to be the Deus Ex Machina who's going to come in here and fix everything. And then to be like, absolutely not, forces a more creative solution from the creative teams, and then subverts your expectations as a reader. I think it's a great move.
This is a pretty smart way to get rid of this character that could end the storyline immediately.
Yeah.
And then Necron just goes, the universe will die now. And I gotta point out on that last page, Doug Mahnke draws a pretty scary yet cool looking Black Lantern Superman.
Yeah, I always look at Oliver Queen in this one.
Yeah, head down.
In the corner, yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. All right, now let's go into the next issue. Blackest Night, Volume 1, Number 7, cover date of April 2010, written by Jeff Johns, penciled by Yvonne Rice, inked by Claire Albert and Joe Prado, colored by Alex Sinclair, lettered by Nick Napolitano, edited by Eddie Berganza. Really cool cover.
Really great cover.
By Yvonne Rice. But you gotta talk about what I think is one of the most badass moments in all of Blackest Night. You know me, Ashley. I love a good hero grabbing somebody by the foot and dragging them.
Do you?
I do. My favorite Batman moment in the entire Dark Knight is where he goes and gets Chen and he grabs the guy and just drags him. So panel 1 of this issue is Superman just dragging a Guardian through the mud, and I think that's super badass.
Ganthet.
No, Ganthet is a Green Lantern at this moment, so that's not a Ganthet. Is it Ganthet?
It's Ganthet. He's got the Green Lantern symbol.
But no, Ganthet. Oh, maybe it is Ganthet. No, I don't think this is Ganthet. Ganthet is all white at this point, so that's red. That's a normal Guardian.
Okay.
That is not Ganthet.
Nobody uses
This Guardian's name, so.
See, this is Ganthet right here on page 3 with Atrocitus, Ashley.
I guess you're right.
Yes, because Ganthet took on a Green Lantern.
You're right.
So Necron asks the Guardians why they guard the universe, to which the Guardians do not remember. I actually think that's a great moment, that they have been around for eons and they don't even remember right now. So Black Hand attacks the Lanterns, and Black Hand and Atrocitus recognize each other from the retcon of the past in Green Lantern Secret Origin.
Yeah,
This was Jeff Johns' retconned
cool
Hal
moment.
Jordan thing. Let's talk about this 2-page spread where we see all the Lanterns together, led by Guy Gardner. What do you think about this page spread?
I love any spread of all the cores because you get to look at all the weird aliens in the background and be like, wow, I've never seen that before. I think it's cool. I don't know if I would have put Gardner at the front of it, but I get coming out of the last issue. You want to feature him prominently?
You want to know something, Ashley, about this 2-page spread?
Please.
There's a continuity error here.
Please tell me.
On the left side of this 2-page spread, there is a Sinestro Corps member called Tri-Eye. He's the guy with 3 eyes and 3 mouths, and he looks like a starfish.
Yes.
Now, Tri-Eye was executed by Alpha Lanterns
Yes, he was.
in this event. Earlier in this event.
Like not that long ago.
Yep. And he became a member of the Black Lantern Corps who fought Guy and Kyle in these issues that we have covered on Blackest Night. Now, here's the thing. That actually happened in Green Lantern Corps number 40. Now, there is a chance, I will give this to you, that this is not Tri-Eye, the same character.
Sure, it could be the same race.
That this is a successor, a twin, or a lookalike. But, again, I just wanted to point this out that I thought it was very funny because, again, in Blackest Night, we've already seen Tri-Eye the Black Lantern.
I am also gonna say, let's play the blame game here.
Sure.
Look, and it's a pretty minor mistake of all the mistakes that could
And
be
most
had.
people would not catch it.
I didn't catch it,
Yep.
but Jeff Johns wrote. Like, Jeff Johns is kind of the overseer. He's like the producer
And
on
Peter J.
these.
Tomasi is the writer of Green Lantern Corps.
Of Green Lantern Corps. But so...
There is a chance they did not... There is a chance that Jeff did not know. Or let's
But
put...
like, where is it? This is what an editor's for.
Okay,
Where is editorial?
Let's put it on this. Because I would say, let's just think about it. We are comic book writers.
Yes.
If we were writing this 2-page spread, we would not write Tri-Eye is there. So, to be honest with you, there is a chance that Yvonne Reese drew this having no idea that Peter J. Tomasi
Had killed
this character.
Yes. But there are 2 people working on this book who should have said, hey, Yvonne,
Yes.
we see that you've included this character.
The 2 editors should have caught this.
I mean, or again, Jeff Johns, who is not writing every issue, writing almost every issue and kind of overseeing this.
Yeah.
Wild.
Well, I just want
There
to...
you have something to talk about at a cocktail party.
Well, I just wanted to point that out because generally this event has been pretty good with continuity.
Yes.
And there's a lot of moving. I mean, this is a cast of billions.
There's a lot of moving pieces here. Yes,
and there's a lot of questionable female anatomy in this spread as well.
Well, let's move on. So we learned that there are only 2 billion Black Lanterns around Earth. And,
Only.
well, I'm just gonna say for the entire universe of dead people, I thought that number seemed a little low.
I mean, I guess.
You know, I'm just gonna say that out there.
guess.
All right, so we get to a part in Coast City where Dove, we get to see Dove of Hawk and Dove like use some of her white light, and then we find out, Ashley, that there is somebody inside the Black Lantern battery saying, "Let me out, let me out." Now, if you've read the Sinestro Corps War event, you know who this is. If you don't know who this is and you watch Crisis Club, you probably have a pretty good idea about who's inside this. Ashley, let me ask you this. We'll keep the secret for now because he hasn't popped out yet. Ashley, when you read this, did you know who it was?
No.
Did you have any inkling about who this was?
I truly didn't think for 1 second about who it could possibly be.
Okay,
Because
all right.
I thought, they'll probably tell me before the end of Blackest Night Club.
Yeah.
So just because of the way I read it, I didn't think about it. If I had been reading it week to week, probably would have had a theory.
All right, so when we get to the reveal, we will talk about that more.
Okay.
But we're gonna keep that hidden for now.
Yeah.
So Necron kills one of the Guardians, and with their organs, Black Hand does a little
Little
seance
magic
thing. And finally, Necron says, "Trespasser, rise!" There's a huge blast of white light, and we see a being, a weird alien-type creature, made completely out of white light. Necron strikes this thing. It causes every living being in the universe to feel pain. And we learned from Ganthet. Ganthet tells him that this is the entity, the sentient embodiment of living light that triggered existence in the universe, that, let there be light. This is the creature.
He looking like Saint Walker.
Yes. He tells him the fact that despite the Guardians of the Universe, now up to this point, DC Universe, the Guardians of the Universe were the oldest beings in the universe. And life had begun on Maltus, which is their home planet, before they moved to Oa. But now they say that this thing was birthed on Earth, and that all life in the universe started on Earth. Now, this is a retcon.
It's a massive retcon.
Of DC Cosmic Universe, including a retcon of Crisis on Infinite Earths, what we just talked about in Crisis Club previously. Now, up to this point, we also learned in Infinite Crisis that the entire multiverse is anchored on Earth. Now the multiverse is anchored on Earth. Now all life is anchored on Earth. Ashley, what do you think about this retcon basically making the entirety of space, time, and existence and life anchored around Earth?
I do not care for it.
Why?
This is a really easy thing to do in any kind of sci-fi that you are working on. Star Trek is very guilty of doing this with Earth. Star Wars is very guilty of doing this with Tatooine.
With humans.
And it is because we are human beings who live on the planet Earth. But it's kind of like, there's a joke, and this is not meant to be offensive, but there's a joke that if you ever meet aliens, never tell them about a god. Never tell them that you are the chosen people. Never tell them that only your planet is the one that's worth it, right? Because that could seem a little silly. And so in a multiverse like this, where there's so many planets and there's so many beings and there's
only 2 billion Black Lanterns.
And only 2 billion, and so many belief systems and everything like that, to have everything tied back to Earth, to me it just feels a little bit lazy. And in a previous episode, I brought up the idea of a Mary Sue character, and you're kind of making Earth the Mary Sue, and I get it, because again, most of your story and most of your mythology and your belief systems and your characters are anchored to Earth. And I think for the sake of a Green Lantern event, we could have let one other planet be special.
Sure. Do you have another pick of who you would?
I just wouldn't have changed it.
Yeah.
I just would have. I don't even think you need to justify why White God is on Earth right now. You know, like it's there because the story demands that it's there, and maybe you can say that it exists outside of time and space, but because we have someone from every corps here and we're fighting the Black Lanterns, that it's here now. Like I don't need any sort of explanation. Or that life began on Earth, because also just in like the history of our universe that we live in,
that's not true.
Life didn't, like, the universe didn't start with Earth. Earth came way later. So I just think it's a weird, unnecessary retcon, but I think what the story leads to is cool. Do you like it as a retcon?
I understand why they did it. No, not really, for all the reasons you said. It does make Earth a little too special. I do have a pitch for a planet they should have picked.
Mogo.
No. Koragar.
Ooh, that's a cool choice.
Especially when you see what happens in this issue, which we're going to talk about in just a few seconds. I think it would have been...
That makes a lot of...
I think it would have been really interesting.
It's like you're a professional writer.
I think it would have been interesting to make it the home of basically Space Hitler.
Yeah.
You know, is like the pure planet.
Yeah.
It would have been a nice twist.
Also, you set up something interesting for Ceramic.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Yes, you do.
So what do we reveal about Space Hitler?
Well, first thing we got to talk about, so Sinestro attacks Ganthet, telling him that the Guardians have had a long history of burying things like Parallax.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
And the massacre of Sector 666, which created Atrocitus.
Yes.
And also there's a nice little retcon, and I want to ask your opinion on this as well, that the White Lantern, the origin of the life coming from Earth, is the reason the White Abensur visited Earth in the first place.
I mean, I guess. Again, you do not need to explain
I don't
to
think so
me
either.
why Abensur was on Earth. Like, he was there. The most important thing Abensur, like Barry Allen, did was die. Great.
Then they find out that this entity needs a host like Ion, like Parallax, like the Beast, all the other entities of the Power Course, and Sinestro hops in and becomes the first White Lantern ever in an amazingly beautiful 2-page spread that I think looks amazing with Fall Sinestro of Koragar, Destiny Awaits. I love this 2-page spread. I also was completely blown away with Sinestro becoming the White Lantern in this event when I was reading it. Ashley, were you surprised by this as well?
I was, because I didn't know that this happened as far as I knew.
Because you know of other White
Power
Lanterns.
Rangers, the only White Lantern.
Yeah.
This 2-page spread as well, if you have never thought about the value of a colorist,
Yes.
if you've never followed a colorist on Twitter or Instagram, this is what colorists do. Like, this page
I would love
is
to have this as a poster.
So
It's so good.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
I actually think it probably works better as a digital one because you can see it. Like, this was a big, heavy book you guys turn around. Stunning. Love it. 10 out of 10.
All right, let's talk about Green Lantern number 52. Cover date of May 2010. It was written by Jeff Johns, penciled by Doug Monkey, inked by Christian Alelmi and others, colored by Randy Mayer and others, letters by Rob Lee, and edited by Eddie Berganza and Adam Slagman. Let's talk about this cover, man. White Lantern Sinestro is a cover I never thought I'd ever see.
He real wrinkly in this cover.
Well, he's an old dude.
He's a buff old dude.
He's a buff old dude.
Both of the covers look really cool. Really, really cool. Man, so many Green Lantern guns.
Yes, so let's talk about this. So the White Lantern reveals a lot of information and backstory to Sinestro's mind in this issue, which is very interesting. It talks about the creation at the dawn of the universe, how it was brought to Earth, how it was made in its home with the planet's core, where sort of the idea that the Guardians hid the thing in the planet core of Earth to make sure, and then it led to the first sentient creatures on Earth, which evolved through will.
Yes.
Which allowed the first entity to be born, which of course is
Ion.
correct?
This sequence is where
very cool.
Is where I mentioned Avatar: The Last Airbender. When you see all of them, that's what feels like it to me.
Yes.
The way they're designed, they seem like these godhead creatures.
Yes.
They're very cool.
Yes, all the different entities on here. You get the embodiment of fear is Parallax. You get the embodiment of love, which is the Predator. The Avatar is the snake. Rage is the bull. Hope is the bird. And compassion is the squid. What do you think about compassion as a squid?
Well, I like squids and octopi, so I don't mind it. The reason I think they did it is because of the suckers, and the way they draw the suckers on the leg looks like the compassion symbol. So I think it's kind of clever. I think they're stunning.
Now, this 2-page spread with Sinestro will see all the entities behind him. Do you know why this page is
Amazing.
important?
No?
It's the first time we've ever seen all of the entities.
Oh, sure.
It's also the first time that we've ever seen them all together. Up to this point, the Compassion entity had not been revealed, and I believe neither had the Orange Lantern entity been revealed.
The snake?
Yes.
Who's your favorite design of the various entities?
It's always Ion, because I like, it's a tie between Ion and Parallax, because Parallax, here's the thing, I think Ion and Parallax, because they were the first two, got the best designs, and I think the rest of them they had to rush because they were putting them in this thing. But I like Ion as sort of a whale squid creature.
Flying fish sort of thing. I think Ion's the best design.
Yeah. But there's something to do with the
Let
blue.
us know your thoughts.
Yeah. And then old Necron kills Sinestro, book over.
Yeah.
Right down the center.
Yeah, he cuts him right. He
Cleaves
stays
him.
cut in half for a minute,
Yep.
too. I like that Korgarians have purple blood. That's cool.
Now there is a fun bit I want to talk about. Xanshi, the dead planet of John Stewart and home to Katmatui, is of course a dead Black Lantern planet. It is in orbit. They send a team of different corps to take it down, including, fun fact, Fatality, who is a Star Sapphire here. She is the African-American Star Sapphire here.
Yes, who we saw earlier in the series.
She is a villain from Kyle Rayner's original solo run who blamed the Green Lanterns for the destruction of Xanshi, and then later she became, basically the personification of the destruction of Xanshi to Jon Stewart.
I think she's a great.
I like the way they use her here. I think it's smart. I also like the moment where Jon says to the Katmatui Black Lantern that you're not her.
You're not my wife.
Yep, I like that a lot.
They were married.
Yep.
Jon Stewart and Kamatui is married.
Yeah.
So they destroy Xanshi, and then we get Sinestro reborn by the White Light. And that is basically...
And we get to see the
White Entity, which we've also seen before as well, but it's just tying it all in. Which is basically the end of the whole issue. Ashley, any other thoughts you'd like to be in this issue?
It's funny because these two issues, so much happens, and I'm like, we could have parsed this out a little bit. This cool. All the White Lantern stuff is always cool. I am pro White Lanterns.
And here we are, my Green Lantern babies. Blackest Night, number 8. Cover date, May 2010. Written by Jeff Johns, penciled by Yvonne Reese, inked by Odar Albert and others, colored by Alex Sinclair, lettered by Nick Napolitano, and edited by Eddie Berganza.
Hot take, the variant cover's better.
Oh, with all the White Lanterns reaching
Yeah.
it at...
It's not as quote unquote dynamic, but I think the composition of it is much more beautiful and much more evocative.
But I get it. You gotta have everyone on the cover. You want to be exciting.
Because Sinestro is about to try and murder people again.
Yes, so basically, Sinestro as a White Lantern kills Necron,
It's awesome.
and the series is over.
There is a panel where he's ripping Necron's heart out,
And it reminds me of earlier when he was fighting Atrocitus at the beginning of the event. And the composition of that panel and everything.
But the coolest thing about this event is that over the next 3 panels, you see that just the closest Black Lantern nearby just becomes Necron.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which I think is really, really neat. And then it leads to, you're talking about characters that we'd kind of forgotten about. Black Lantern Martian Manhunter comes out of nowhere, telepathically low blows everybody. But here's the interesting thing. On that same page, we see characters that we have not seen since Blackest Night number 0.
Tell me.
Ashley, do you know who that family is?
That's Hal's family.
It is Hal's brother. Do you know specifically?
It's Hal's brother.
It is Hal's brother,
I also know that
Howard.
Because he says, what does Uncle Hal
Yep.
always say?
It's Howard Jordan, his wife Jane, and their 2 kids, Jim and Susan, who have been in the Green Lantern series, this new series, since number 1. But remember, we did see them in Blackest Night 0 because there's a joke in the graveyard where Hal and the Green Lanterns are flying over, and the little kids almost give up his identity, and they're like, shh, don't reveal Uncle Hal as Green Lantern.
Do you like this inclusion of this panel?
Yes, I do, and also I love it because that little panel is a nice reminder back because Coast City was basically a ghost town after Parallax's destruction of it.
Yes.
Until Sinestro Corps War. And in Sinestro Corps War, because the Green Lanterns saved the city, they renamed themselves the City Without Fear.
Yeah, which is what we saw in the previous issue. We saw on the city side.
So the no fear thing is kind of a recurring theme, which I really think is a nice thing about.
There's a moment where Red Lantern Mara is punching Black Lantern Dolphin in the face and calls her tramp, which I think is hysterical, maybe a little problematic, but very funny. And you mentioned in a previous episode the Indigo Lantern's specific language, and that comes back
knock, click,
here
knock.
as well, where they say Lek, Renor, roll, knock. And this is the panel where the Flash tornado arms come back. The only time in the entire series I hate them.
Is it the only time in the
This has
entire series that
been-
you hate them, or the only time that you see them?
This is the only time you see them in the series. I always hate them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Ashley, let's flip to your next page real quick.
Oh, you mean this incredible 2-page spread that probably took 150 years to draw?
Yes, where it's everybody versus everybody. All the Black Lanterns versus all the Green Lanterns, and you get some nice DC cameos in there, including Power Girl.
Yes, you do have a nice Power Girl cameo in one of her Wilder costumes. Booster Gold is in there.
Yeah.
Whichever guy that is in
Atom
there.
Smasher.
I can never remember which one is Atom Smasher and which one is the other one who looks exactly like Atom
You
Smasher.
mean Damage?
Thank you.
The one who died in this very series
Yeah,
that
I
we're
can
reading?
never remember which one is which. Which one is in JSA and Courtney has a crush on?
Atom Smasher?
Thank you.
But they're both in the JSA?
Well, damn.
Black Canary is here. All the Teen Titans are here. I truly I see this page and
My wrists hurt looking at
Well,
it.
speaking of wrist, we gotta move the heck on because we have to get to the point where Deadman comes in with all the info. Now, Deadman has sort of just been around, and he gives like a lot of information in here, and he tells them that if they can bring Black Hand back to life, because remember, you might have wondered, we all talked about this in Blackest Night Club #1, the first issue of this, we all asked, we're like, why are we reading this issue about the origin of Black Hand? Why does it matter? This
150 issues later, they finally tell you.
This is why, because he's dead. So Deadman's like, if you bring him back to life, Necron no longer has a hold on the living world. He has to go back to his dark and dank hole, wherever he lives. So then we see Necron separate Sinestro from the white light entity.
That's really cool.
And then Hal Jordan, who Jeff Johns, you said, is making the most specialist Green Lantern of all time.
Yes.
Bonds
Yes.
with the White Lantern entity and turns all of the Black Lanterns and a couple of his other friends, basically all the dead people that have been resurrected, into White Lanterns in an incredible spread. And I think they all have some amazing White Lantern costumes. By the way, DC Classic Universe Action Figure Spotlight made an action figure of this White Lantern Hal Jordan. That's pretty cool.
I think Superman has the best White Lantern costume.
Just because of the way that it looks in the shield?
Yeah, and I like, because to break it up, because they can't do the trunks and the belt, they give him kind of these little like X slashes across his lats, and I just think it looks really cool.
Yes, so what do you think about this?
I don't really believe that Hal Jordan would be a White Lantern for the sake of this event and for the story that's being told.
And this is his series?
And this is his series. This is Green Lantern. I do find this moment arresting and I find it effective, but there's always going to be that voice in the back of my brain that's like, Hal would never be a White Lantern.
Yes.
What do you think about it?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Again, this Blackest Night, the reason why I love it is because it has a lot of twists and turns that are not expected. I did not expect them. The issue after, to be honest with you, I quite honestly thought that Sinestro was going to stay the White Lantern. To be honest with you, I thought that was the new status quo.
Oh, interesting.
And so for them to like suddenly be like, no, he's not, and guess what? Now there's a whole White Lantern Corps. I was like, oh, but it is a very obvious and clever solution to bring all those people that were sort of living Black Lanterns
Pseudo dead.
back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of comic books is hand-waving comic books, and that's one of the better solutions that we've gotten.
Now here is where the Deus Ex Machina really comes in, but I don't care. So a White Lantern ring brings Black Hand back to life, and he starts spitting out more white rings, and it heads for the Black Lantern Central Battery and commands the Anti-Monitor to live.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I still think the Anti-Monitor should only ever have existed in Crisis on Infinite Earths, but if they were going to employ this character here, I think they made good use of the Anti-Monitor.
Yes, and so the Anti-Monitor is no longer in control of, or Necron's not going to control him. He attacks him. Eventually they send him back to the Anti-Monitor universe for a future storyline. And then, you know, basically we all turn on Necron, all these white rings, all this white power, and we kill Necron.
We let there be light.
We let there be light, going back to some biblical thing. Then Black Hand keeps coughing up a bunch of white rings, and I want to talk about this section just like we talked about when all the people were being deputized in the different lanterns. Who comes back? A bunch of white rings. They resurrect Osiris, Jade, Captain Boomerang, the original one, Hawk, Ronnie Raymond, Professor Zoom, Maxwell Lord, Hawkman, Hawk Girl, Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, and Deadman. It commands them all to live. Now, Ashley, I want to talk about all these people that you think they maybe should have brought back, who they shouldn't have brought back. Let's hear your thoughts.
My favorite thing is that in the background of these 2-page spreads, you can see Thawne is like, like he's speeding back and forth. I think that's super cool.
I remember right now in the omnibus, as we're looking right now, it is 4 pages of double page spread. If I remember it, I think that was a trifold.
Well, it was a
4-page
It would look like this because Aquaman's arm is over here and see the John Jones's.
Yes.
So it probably is, but you can't do that in a ye olde omnibus. So
let's talk about like why we thought we brought some of these back. Now, Jade is pretty obvious. That's Kyle's girlfriend. They wanted to introduce some complications between Kyle and Serena.
No, she should have stayed dead.
That's not the question. I mean,
you said we were going to talk about should they have stayed dead or
no? We're going to talk about them in general, like why we thought they brought them back. You're a lot of be like, no, I hate Jade.
I do hate.
Screw Jade.
I do hate Jade.
Get Jade out of here. You're wrong.
She should have stayed dead.
Here's a goofy one. They brought back the original Captain Boomerang. Who cares?
Who cares? Yeah. I mean, Jeff Johns cares. I guess is the answer to that.
Yeah.
Martian Manhunter. great.
Who had just died in Final Crisis, the event that just ended right before this.
Which is too bad, right? If someone is going to be dead, like, leave them dead for a minute. But I love J'onn J'onzz, so I'm always like, yeah, like, bring him back.
This is actually one of my favorite J'onn J'onzz costume, this sort of brightest day.
The one where you can see his nipples? They
Yeah.
give him nipples in this art. They don't always do that.
He should have nipples. Let's talk about Professor Zoom or Hunter Earbar Thawne. So this is how he comes back to life.
I think.
Now this fits into the timeline. Maxwell Lord killed in Infinite Crisis by Wonder Woman. Was former ally, now current villain. I think he is a very interesting choice for this resurrection.
He's a choice.
Aquaman, who was killed in Infinite Crisis, brought back immediately.
Yeah, should have been brought back.
Let's talk about Ronnie Raymond.
Who cares?
It brings Firestorm back in the universe. Firestorm has been dead for a while. Or this version of Firestorm.
Has been. I mean, who cares? We have Jason Rush. Who cares? I don't care.
Let me ask you, is there anybody in this group? Do you mostly think that most of this group shouldn't have been resurrected?
Yes.
Including the Hawkman and Hawkgirl who was killed in this event?
Yes. I think most of these people should have stayed dead. I don't necessarily have alternates that I would have liked to see resurrected instead.
Yes.
But for me, this is a gallery of who, like Hawk, who cares? Maxwell Lord, who cares? Like, and I know that's a crummy attitude to have, and I know there's a lot of people out there who like these characters, and I know that some of these characters have gone on to have really interesting stories, but like, I look at this 2-page spread, and there's three characters that I think should have been deserve to have been brought back.
I actually think Dead Man is the most interesting choice.
I think Dead Man is an interesting choice, but him being alive defeats the whole idea.
No, but that's a story.
Dead
That's a
Man.
story that you've never told that character before.
I completely agree. Agree. But it's a weird choice to me.
So I want to quickly just go back through some of the, or go through some more of the sort of things they talk about. So again, Jade returns and immediately kisses Kyle, which is a nice moment. Barry notices that there is no Ralph Dibny or Sue Dibny.
Yeah, who cares? No one cared about Elongated Man before he died.
I actually think that's one of the sweet moments, but if you had brought them back, it would kind of ruined Identity Crisis.
It would have. It would have really cut it off at the knees.
I like the moment where Larfleeze and our little baby Glomulus gives them Lex Luthor, and they realize you just gave us something, and he's like, oh no, I didn't mean to.
I love that. At this point, Glomulus doesn't talk. He learns to talk in a little bit, but I love that he just goes, like, it's so, Larfleeze and Glomulus in this are so excellent.
Yes, and then Larfleeze finally gets his guardian, Saeed.
Yes.
She goes to them. Then we have to talk about Black Hand going with the Indigos, and there's a nice little scene here with Barry Allen and Hal Jordan back in the original grave in front of Bruce Wayne's grave, where they talk about, they're like, oh, maybe Dead is dead now? Yeah, no, it isn't.
This is comic books, my friend.
If you had had a good editor at this point, or I was gonna say like an overall good editor-in-chief at DC Comics, then it could have meant permanently that Dead is dead. This would have been a great part to be like, no.
I see what you're saying. I just don't think when this was being written and developed in 2010 and 2009.
About a year before the New 52.
I just think you're so deep in comic nonsense, but the time to say Dead is 1970. The time to say Dead is 1960. Like, we are so far past bending over backward to come up with reasons why any character is allowed to be alive because somebody wants them to be alive. Like, I don't think no one believed this for one second.
No.
Unless you were like a younger kid, and then I'll give you a pass.
But I want to talk about, Barry Allen says the line that Tim Drake was right. Ashley, do you want to elaborate on your sweet baby Tim Drake right? No.
Yes. So at this point, Batman has been dead for a while, traveling through time.
Maybe 6 months.
For a while. In comic book time, that can be a long time.
Sure.
And Tim is the only one who believes Bruce is alive because Bruce has left clues that only Tim has found because Tim is the best detective of all the Bat children. And there's a big part of his story arc in Red Robin is that
first 12 issues.
Nobody believes him, and so he goes off and starts that hunt on his own because Damian Wayne comes in and ruins his ability to be Robin, and this is kind of the turnaround point in the overall arc of the DC Universe at this time, where other heroes start believing, which will lead it to the eventual resurrection and return of Bruce Wayne as Batman.
I'm going to say this. I could be completely wrong about this, but I think the miniseries that brought Bruce back, The Return of Bruce Wayne, might have been published before this. At this point.
I cannot confirm or deny.
I cannot confirm that either.
It's all, Batman didn't stay dead for very long. So it's all kind of happening in this ether as well, yes.
And then, in a big crater a white lantern appears on Earth, of course, leading to the series that followed us, a bi-weekly series called Brightest Day. Ashley, what do you think about this last, this is an interesting last page to end a moment on. A white lantern is there.
I like, because this is the final page of the issues called
the
Blackest
main series.
Night.
Yep,
Yes.
this is it for the main series.
I like ending with this because we started with darkness and now we're ending with light,
Mm.
right? Like, it's a very obvious metaphor
Mm-hmm.
and sort of meta narrative that's been going through all of these space battles, but it's very nice. It's sort of unfortunate that Brightest Day doesn't live up to the legacy
It's not very good.
that Blackest Night lays down. There's like a couple good like Booster and Beetle moments in it, but it doesn't do. I don't know if you could have followed up something that directly tied into Blackest Night that was going to have anywhere near the impact of it, and unfortunately Brightest Day doesn't, but it's a cool panel and it's a great last page.
All right, so now we're come to the end, my friends, of Blackest Night. This is the tome of Blackest Night, all the issues, and we are going to do this, my friends. That is it. Ashley, put that on the hallowed halls. Put it on the ground. It's heavy as hell. It's probably like
My legs are
25 pounds. So, I want to talk about the thoughts of Blackest Night and the legacy of Blackest Night with Brightest Day. Now, Ashley, I don't know how you want to talk about this. Let's just talk about the event as a whole.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on this event? What do you feel about this event coming out of it? Let's just go, and then we can talk about Brightest Day and where this leads to and all that stuff later.
Sure. Blackest Night is a complete thought, which is something that's really uncommon in contemporary comics. It changed a lot of things about not only Green Lantern mythos, but the DC universe. I think for good and for ill, more for good.
I think more for good.
There is moments of really incredible art and really beautiful things. I'm glad I read it. I do not think I will ever read it again.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you did. I enjoyed it more than I anticipated, which I'm really glad of. But it's hard to read this now, knowing everything that happens. Even more than Crisis on Infinite Earths, I felt like. Because it is really hard to look at this through the lens of what it was like at the time.
Yes.
And maybe not to have regrets about things that happened, like the fact that like Larfleeze kind of became
a joke.
really dumb. Because he's really
And
wonderful
Atrocitus,
here.
and Atrocitus as well.
And that-
I think Atrocitus becomes a joke as well.
Yes, and that Kyle Rayner really gets swept under the rug.
Saint
and-
Walker basically disappears from the DC universe.
Yeah, and just things like that. So I guess overall I have kind of mixed feelings about it. But I'm happy that people voted on it and that we explored it and that I got to read something that was new to me. And Kyle Rayner's still better than Hal Jordan.
Yep.
Final thoughts?
Blackest Night is one of the greatest comic book events of all time because comic book events are hard to pull off because you have to do something that actually changes the universe and adds new things to the universe. That's something a lot of people forget. A lot of people just want to do the explosions and not add things. This adds a lot to the DC universe while doing a lot of explosions. And also at the same time, doing an event, you have to be a complete story, yet not be a complete story. Like you have to, if you only read the issues of Blackest Night, just the series, I think you would have a satisfying story. But also, Blackest Night is one of the few events, most comic book events, have terrible tie-ins. Blackest Night actually has a lot of great tie-in issues because all the issues of Green Lantern and all the issues of Green Lantern Corps are tie-ins. But here's the thing I think about Blackest Night, and it's the thing that I think is really missing from modern comic book events of the last 10 years, is that Blackest Night had 5 years of buildup.
I was just going to bring that up. I don't feel like the lessons that creators and editors and executives learned from Blackest Night were the right ones.
Yep.
And that is something that they should have learned because now you're lucky to have one issue or a 0 issue to set up your event before you are in the shit.
Most events, most modern ones, get no setup. And they just happen. And you're just like, wow, it seems like the universe is exploding every other week. Again, Blackest Night is mentioned in Green Lantern Rebirth 5 years before this. And so the buildup is everything. I also tell you this, I have a special fondness for Blackest Night because to me, Blackest Night is the last story in my DC universe. And I will explain that.
Please.
My DC universe for me is post-Crisis Infinite Earths to Blackest Night. It's the universe that I love the most. It's where Tim Drake is a Robin, Dick Grayson is a Nightwing or a Batman, Batman is there. There's Connor Kent.
Wally West.
Wally West. This is my favorite DC universe. It's where like the legacy of DC universe matters, but there are great events like Final Night and Death of Superman and Reign of Superman and Superman Blue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say all the Superman jokes, but I once the Superman jokes happen, they happen. But Green Lantern, Sinestro Corps, we had Nightfall. All these amazing events were in this time period. And I'm gonna tell you folks, once Blackest Night ended, you could kind of tell, again, I was reading comics at the time, that the DC Universe was kind of spinning its wheels because they knew the New 52 was coming.
Yeah.
And a lot of storylines post Blackest Night did not matter, even the Green Lantern ones. None of them had...
Like Brightest Day.
Well, here, yeah, Brightest Day, let's talk about that. Brightest Day, I remember being so excited for that. It's 25 issues of characters being like, I wonder who'll be the White Lantern. And then, surprise, none of them are. Because it's Kyle. But I'll tell you what, you want to know what the greatest follow-up to Blackest Night is?
Sure.
Justice League Generation Lost. So when Brightest Day was published, it was a bi-weekly series. The other series that was bi-weekly that also went to 25 issues was Justice League Generation Lost. It was a series of Booster reforming the Justice League International to take down Maxwell Lord, which is the only reason why they brought Maxwell Lord back. But I'll tell you what, that is a fantastic miniseries. It is so good, and also has the banner of Brightest Day across it the entire time. It is so much better than this series called Brightest Day.
No, and Booster's kind of all over Brightest Day as well.
Yeah,
because I remember seeing it on stands, and it was like Booster Gold, Booster Gold, Booster Gold on all of, and it's a lot of white covers with characters in the foreground, which I love. That was my first Teen Titans issue that I ever bought, looked like that. But again, I don't know, in fairness to Brightest Day, not that I'm looking to apologize for Brightest Day, I don't know if you could have followed this up with anything that was going to hit the same way. There should have just been a little more breathing room.
We were chatting a little bit earlier today about this, and I said to you, because I think that Jeff Johns' final arc on Green Lantern is fantastic, and his final issue titled The End is really good. I think it's Green Lantern 20. I could be wrong on the number. In the New 52, I think that arc should have been immediately after Blackest Day, because none of the other storylines, and he does a bunch of other events after this. He does a story arc called New Guardians. He does a story arc called War of the Green Lanterns. There's another one where they learn the origins of the Indigo Lanterns. Then it's Rise of the Third Army that immediately leads into Wrath of the First Lantern, and that's the final one. None of them compete with Blackest Night. Not a single one of them. Blackest Night is the height of his Green Lantern run. It never gets better than Blackest Night. And there are interesting stuff in the other ones, but they never reach the like, oh wow, like this is surprising, this is amazing.
Well, how are you going to outdo introducing a whole color core?
Yes.
I mean,
you can't do it. You can't do it. So I don't know, like, I will say when we first started this storyline, I was a little like, oh, this is not living up to my expectations. But I'll tell you what, when I got to the end, I remembered exactly what I loved about this storyline and exactly why this changed comics, because this did change I mean, for God's sake, they shipped out all these lantern rings because of Blackest Night. Like, there was a time, again, this was also the end of Green Lantern was the third member of the Trinity.
Yeah.
Because of storylines like this, not Wonder Woman.
And then the movie ruined it.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan Reynolds.
And the very next year after this, yes, Ryan Reynolds undid all of the work that Jeff Johns did. In one 2-hour movie, he ruined basically everything, that all the status that everybody, because Green Lantern, the Green Lantern comic book from Green Lantern Rebirth to Blackest Night was actually bringing in readers that had never read or never bought Green Lantern before.
Although, hilariously, Jeff Johns worked on.
I know he worked on that
2011's Green Lantern.
Anyways, that's why there's a Yellow Lantern in it. That's why there's Parallax in it. What do you think is the legacy, the overall legacy of Blackest Night to now? Ashley, do you have any thoughts on this?
That's a big question.
Yes, it is a big.
Unfortunately, a lot of very bad Green Lantern universe books come out of this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because Jeff Johns had free reign and probably not a lot of editorial oversight, he was able to do something very special here. And the unfortunately part gets tacked on to, I don't know if anyone who's written Green Lantern since then has been able to achieve the same level of success and importance in their story that Jeff Johns was able to do here.
I would agree with that. I mean, you've heard me say several times that I think Jeff Johns has written the greatest run on Green Lantern.
Yes, and there are other, which is not just, there are other Green Lantern stories by other writers that have come since then that I thought have been good, that I thought have been solid, that we own.
Like the Grant Morrison, the Green Lantern.
I love the the Grant Morrison, Liam Sharp Green Lantern is so special.
Kind of a different ball game almost.
Entirely.
Yeah.
It's very, very European, so check that out if you want something truly wild.
Yeah.
But I think this leaves a long shadow over Green Lantern in a good way and in a bad way. I also think the DC tone of the New 52 gets criticized for being dark and dour, and then the movies that we've had most recently get that same criticism. I want to lay that at the feet of this, because this is pre-New 52, and this is as dark and dour as you can get, and it was responded to very positively. So I'm sure when they were pitching in meetings, they said, well, we want things that are going to feel like Blackest Night, because Blackest Night was very successful, and ultimately, I think it might have been a little damaging, but the good stuff that came out of this is we got introduced to a ton of new cosmic characters who are awesome.
They're all great.
And have gone on to have either great stories or great moments. And they deserve to be adapted, which is why every time we talk about Green Lantern or a Green Lantern Corps, we bring up Blackest Night and what this story established. Because I want these characters on the big screen. All right, give me some of your thoughts. I've talked for a long time about sort of the legacy of Blackest Night.
I don't know. I mean, I think you said it. I don't know if there's anything more that I've added. But I mean, the greatest legacy, I've said for a very long time, is that an easy Green Lantern movie trilogy is Green Lantern Rebirth, Sinestro Corps War, Blackest Night. I would be blown away. This will be adapted into live action.
I'm honestly shocked it hasn't happened yet.
I think a lot of it's just budget. I think a lot of it's budget.
Well, yes, because space.
Yes, and zombies are very expensive as well.
Yes. Another legacy of this is that comic book shops, this has never gone out of print. You've always been able to sell this in retail.
They've always reprinted this. I mean, again, the fact that they were like, let's do an omnibus to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of this. Let's do it. But I will also say this. This is the last good DC event. I'm putting that out there.
I'm just trying to think.
I'm talking about universe-wide.
Yes, as opposed to line-wide or container
or Batman. Yeah. But this is, in my argument, the last good DC Universe event.
Yeah, I think you're probably
right. Blackest Night. No event in the last 10 years has beaten this one. And I think the reason why is because, one, this was built for 5 years, and this made a lot of changes. A lot of events we read now make no changes.
I would say that Marvel events are very guilty of that. The thing happens, and then we reset, and they're all still alive. And oh boy, all the worlds were crashing together.
Everything went right back to the way it was.
Honestly, the thing that I'm more shocked about is that we haven't had an animated movie of Blackest Night.
Oh, fair point.
To me, there's a very, very easy way to just add a little voiceover to the beginning, give us a little bit of information, and launch right into Blackest Night in an animated movie form.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's all there is to be said. I mean, I really like this event, and to be honest with you, I would say to anybody that has ever thought about writing a comic book event, please don't write a comic book event if you're just making independent comics. It's you gotta earn it. But this is, to me, if you were creating a modern comic book Big 2 event, I think this is required reading. I think you have to read it.
I think if you are looking to write comics at all, and not everything you do is going to be on this scale. You know, what Jason and I have done in our comic career so far is not this, and it's not trying to be this, but there's a lot that you can learn about storytelling, and we've tried our best to point out great moments of it from reading this event. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, that's it. This is it for Blackest Night Club.
We survived!
But there you go.
Hello, future people.
Thank you for joining us in the blackness of your heart that I hope brought some white joy, that filled you with love, with hope, and also made you a little bit angry about how jealous you are that you might be fearful that you wouldn't get any more of Green Lantern.
Indigo tribe ring missing.
Insert later. So there you go, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Allowing me to share my Green Lantern run. I'll say this about Blackest Night as well.
Sure.
Blackest Night, for me, also, I think, was the last time that I purely felt love for comic books. And what I meant by that is that, like, I was going every single Wednesday. Now, I'm not able to do that now because of jobs and whatever, and I tend to buy more digital comics. But Blackest Night, man, I was there every Wednesday as soon as I could to buy every issue. And it was Green Lantern that made me do that.
At what shop?
Mammoth Comics in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is still open, by the way. I hope it's still open by the time this recording. We don't know.
Yeah, you're not going to see this for months and months.
Yeah, we're recording this way ahead of time, guys. But there you go. Ashley, if you could sum up this experience in one sentence, what would you say?
Long.
We read, you have to realize, we read 12 issues last year.
Yeah.
We read like 100 issues this year.
That was a lot.
It's not 100, but I mean, it's like 50 issues.
Yeah.
Long. I would also say eye-opening in a lot of ways, because this was a new experience for me. Crisis on Infinite Earths, I had read before, so I learned a lot. And that was where I got the most value out of it, and also just beautiful Saronic note.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
All right, well, we have to shout out a big thank you to our patrons over at patreon.com/Jawiin, because you guys made Blackest Night. You guys made Blackest Night Club happen because you picked the series. We don't know what we're doing next. We haven't figured that out now, but we're sure there'll be an announcement on the Patreon
I'm sure
soon.
there'll be polls for you to participate in.
And polls for you guys to participate, and all that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, guys, thanks for allowing us to share our comic book love with you directly. We really appreciate it, and we hope you guys have enjoyed this very long video docu-series. I am Jason, always a Green Lantern Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson. You're a Blue Lantern. That's what the promo
I'm a
art
Green
says for
Lantern.
Blue Lantern.
I'm a Green Lantern. I'm a Green Lantern.
You're like half blue, half green, like Hal.
They call me the Space Cowboy.
No, Space Cop. That's what Kilowog said. He wanted to be a Space Cop again. Didn't want to be a drill sergeant no more. Space Cop.
There's a reference, actually.
I know.
I'm Jason.
I'm good at improv. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
That's it for Blackest Night Club. Welcome to the brightest day. Goodbye, my super friends. And title graphic takes us out. Thanks, editor Adam. You're awesome. That's the perfect way to end it. And we should all just say, thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye-bye.